Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is no stranger to the OPT Network. Her name is Kelly Sullivan Walden, and she's a best-selling author, national TV and radio dream expert. She's also a certified clinical therapist that helps her clients access the subconscious mind, and her mission is to awaken the world to the power of dreams. She, along with Amy Newmark from Chicken Soup of the Soul, have written Dreams and the Unexplainable, 101 stories, eye-opening stories about premonitions and miracles. And Kelly joins us this morning from the Chicken Soup for the Soul offices. Kelly, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Carlette. It's like Christmas being with you. It's wonderful. There's so many gifts to open. I don't even know where to start.
I know. So let's start with why you became a hypnotherapist and what exactly is a hypnotherapist?
Well, I was always the Dear Abby type, the type that people would tell their stories to. Like, I can't believe I've told you that. I've never told anybody this secret. I think I get it from my mom. She was just somebody who was really loving with her friends and always encouraging, and I liked that, and I wanted to be that kind of person. And then so at some point I was taking classes. I thought I would be a psychotherapist, a regular clinical therapist, and maybe it was the classes I was taking. They seemed to be really kind of going the wrong direction. Like I wasn't into doing the scientific, like take a long time to figure out what the resolve would be. When I heard about hypnosis and hypnotherapy, talking to the subconscious mind and getting directly to the place where the issues are and where the solutions are, I thought I need to study hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And that's what I did. I found that the subconscious mind, our dreaming mind, is 88% of our mind's power versus the conscious, logical mind that we mostly value so much in our society. And that's kind of where talk therapy takes place. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not knocking it. I think there's its place for sure. But that's only 12% of our mind's power. So if you can deal with the subconscious mind, our dreaming mind, we get a lot more information, a lot more clarity, a lot more accuracy. And you can ultimately help a person become a whole-brained, holistic being by bridging the gap between those worlds. So hypnosis is really valuable to me.
88% of the mind's power?
According to the American Hypnosis Association, and there's even studies that say, oh, please, it's more like our conscious, logical mind is more like 1% versus the other than conscious mind being 99%. Our intuition, our creativity, the part of us that goes beyond the five senses and the things of this world. I mean, everything in our Chicken Soup for the Soul book is about what goes on the other side of the veil, beyond what our logic tells us is possible. How can you communicate with somebody that's not here? How know things that haven't happened yet? I get the stuff that gives you the goosebumps and the chills. All of that is our other than conscious mind attempting to knock on the door of our conscious mind so that we can ground it and make it real.
Now let's talk about, when we talk about dreams, one would think that you have to be asleep to dream, but dreams can happen even as we are awakened. Talk about that.
Well, there's one perspective that we're always dreaming, that we are a dreaming species. And right now, even though we think we're awake, there's a great Rumi quote that says, actually the opposite, though we appear to be sleeping, there's an inner wakefulness that directs the dream that will eventually startle us back to the truth of who we are. So on some level, we're always sleeping and we're always attempting to wake up. And you know those awake moments where you go, oh, you feel like pop out of the matrix and you're like, wait a minute, God loves me. This is a good world. Everything's okay. Even if all hell is breaking loose around you, you know that the love is real and that somebody's got your back, something's got your back. Those are awake moments. And that's what our nighttime dreams and our daytime experience is always pushing us toward. And so yes, we're always dreaming, and there's just different types of dreaming that we have.
And so Amy Newmark is somebody that you came into community with, and I know that it had to be a blessing for both of you. And for those people who don't know Amy, she is the editor-in-chief and also the publisher for Chicken Soup for the Soul. Talk about how that connection happened.
Well, we dedicate this book to Julie Isaac. And so on one of the very first pages that we thank her is Julie Isaac is known as the Twitter queen. And Amy's quite active on Twitter as for the Chicken Soup for the Soul brand. I'm not so active on Twitter. I'm more of a Facebook girl, but I'm working on it. But I got a message from my assistant that said, you just got a message from Julie Isaac saying that Chicken Soup for the Soul is doing a call out for a dream book. And that was the previous book, Dreams and Premonitions. She said, you should send a story. I thought, oh, I'll send a story. I've got so many of my own personal stories. So I sent one in. And then this woman, Julie, said, Kelly, you should actually reach out to Amy directly. She needs to know that you're a dream expert, that you're not just, just a random person with a random dream. And I was like, oh, so I went to reach out to her. And the moment that I did, she pinged me and said, oh, I just looked at your profile. We should talk. I thought, oh my goodness, the editor-in-chief and publisher of Chicken Soup wants to talk to me. How exciting. So I let Julie know, and she's like, oh. So behind the scenes, Julie and I are going, oh my God, doing the happy, happy dance.
Absolutely.
And then Amy and I talked, and she got to know my philosophy about dreams and how I'd written a bunch of books and how dreams, it's an area of expertise that I didn't realize I was going to have, but it turns out that I have. And we decided to make our first book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Dreams and Premonitions, with 101 stories about dreams and premonitions and miraculous stories. And that went so well. The book sold really well. We decided to do another one because there were so many stories, stories of them from around the world, actually, with these incredible, uplifting stories and I feel like Chicken Soup for the Soul brand is all about, when you're hurting, if you're not feeling completely 100%, people are devastated, people are feeling like hopeless and like this world isn't a safe place. We need medicine, we need reassurance that there is more going on than just these random tragic things. There is a loving universe that we're still in, and there's hope for all of us while we're still alive.
Indeed. And so for you, Kelly, when did you know that you had the gift of interpreting dreams?
I think probably, and I'm sure it's probably the same for you and maybe most people, that our gifts are most alien to us because they're the things that we take most, like the fish doesn't know it's swimming in water. What do you mean? I'm doing the backstroke, but doesn't everybody? So I know at one point I was trying to publish a different book, and I had an agent that was working with me, and she said, Kelly, instead of trying to push this snowball uphill that's not going anywhere, maybe you should write a book on dreams, because every time we talk, you're talking about dreams, you're sharing about an insight that you just got from a dream. Everything around you is dream, dream, dream. And I was like, are you kidding? Really? And I stopped to think about it. I said, yeah, it is. And she kind of encouraged me to put a proposal and a book together. And before I knew it, I got a book deal with Warner Books to do, I had The Strangest Dream, the Dreamer's Dictionary for the 21st Century. And before I knew it, I've been talking, now I'm conscious. I mean, I was aware that I was dreaming and paying attention, but I had no idea the impact that dreams were having on other people. And now it's just such a joy and then especially to be able to have a book of these incredible stories that I think truly inspire people to remember their dreams. And I tell people, if you don't remember dreams on a regular basis, if you go to sleep, use the Dreams and the Unexplainable book as your bedtime storybook. Read one or two of the stories as you go to sleep, and you will be so much more apt to remember a dream in the morning, because it's going to kick in that part of you that remembers to remember.
That remembers to remember. Let me get a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about the 101 eye-opening stories and premonitions and miracles in dreams and the unexplainable. Kelly Sullivan Walden is our guest. Stay on point. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. It is our great pleasure this morning to be joined by Kelly Sullivan Walden. You've seen her on the Dr. Oz show. You've seen her on Fox. She's all over the national media. And she really represents Chicken Soup for the Soul's brand. The book that we're talking about this morning is Dreams and the Unexplainable, 101 911 eye-opening stories about premonitions and miracles. And on its face, Kelly, a lot of people, especially unbelievers, would say, that's a little bit too much for me. What do you say to those people?
Oh, I say, well, if you are watching this and you've got any electricity, then you should know that Thomas Edison paid attention to his dreams, and that was part of what helped him with all of his inventions, including electricity. And if you're wearing clothes right now, you might want to not dismiss dreams, because Elias Howe, at the turn of the century before the Industrial Revolution took off, he saw the sewing needle in a dream, and it changed the way. But it changed the entire Industrial Revolution, and so I always say we would be naked, and we would have no electricity. We'd be in the dark if it weren't for dreams. They're very, very practical things that dreams have brought to us. Not to mention, so several people that I know that are alive today because dreams that truly saved them. We've got stories in this book about dreams that the medical, as brilliant as the medical profession is and the medical instruments, they missed. And they completely missed, and there was cancer growing, and we have a woman who had a dream about mushrooms growing on her leg. Tamara Goodsell is her name, and she went and had these moles checked out. She woke up in the morning, she didn't have mushrooms on her ankle, but she went and had a mole that was kind of suspicious, and everyone said, oh, no, that's a nothing. It's a nothing. She went to
I read that story. It took her 4 years, didn't it?
4 years and 4 different doctors until finally one said, well, let's give it a biopsy, and did. It turns out it was melanoma, the most deadly form of skin cancer. So they were able to catch it. Luckily, it hadn't grown too huge, but they were able to remove it, and she's alive today to tell the tale.
And that's why it's so important not to dismiss your dreams, especially when those dreams are recurring.
Exactly. And to even, like, one of the things that she says at the end of her story is that she had been asking the medical profession permission to check this out, right, instead of coming in and saying, and kind of being sheepish about, well, I had a dream, and they would look at her like, you had a dream. You expect that to mean anything to us? We're very logical people here. We use our 12% of our mind. We know everything. But instead, she said, I would have gone in and demanded a biopsy because I had a dream. And that's what I'm hoping people get when they read this book. I think they're going to be emboldened to take action on their dream. And even if it turns out to not be right in that moment, you're at least a step in the direction. And at least you're saying to the dreaming part of your mind, I honor you. Even though you speak in a strange-ish language, I get that there's wisdom happening here, and I don't want to discard it just because it comes in a strange wrapping paper.
And I don't think that God would give us dreams if they were for naught. They're about something.
Absolutely. Well, throughout the Bible, there's stories of dreams being a revelation of how some of really many aspects of the Bible wouldn't exist if it weren't for the dreams that came on high. And even other religions, so many of the sacred texts come through the prophets from their dreams. So it's a really amazing way. All of us, and we've got people in dreams and the unexplainable that commune with their departed loved ones, and there's nothing that can heal a broken heart when you've had a devastating loss than having a dream where that person is alive and well and tells you, I'm here and I'm still connected to you. Aurora Winter is one of our authors in here, and she lost her husband tragically at the young age of 33, leaving her a single widow with a young son, and she was inconsolable for 2 years, and just a dark cloud hanging over her head until she had a dream that her husband came to her, and he asked her 3 questions. If you knew I was going to die young, do you wish you would have known from the beginning? And she said, no, that would have tainted all the love and fun that we had. And then the second question was, if you knew I was going to die young, do you wish you would have never met me at all? And she said, no, you were the love of my life. Of course, I'm so happy for every moment we had. The third question, and this always chokes me up, if you knew I would die young, do you wish that we wouldn't have had our son so he wouldn't have to live without a father? She said, no, he is the best miracle of my life, of course. So he said, so knowing these things, would you have changed anything, knowing now that I was going to die young? She said, no, I wouldn't. She woke up from that dream. The dark cloud had lifted, and everyone around her said, what changed? What happened? And she began to talk about this dream, and soon she became a grief counselor because she had this medicinal effect on other people that had had a devastating loss. Then she founded the Grief Coach Academy because she had such a unique way of helping people. Thousands of people now have been helped by Aurora Wynn. Her story is told so beautifully in our book, Dreams and the Unexplainable.
Amazing. And you have been a part, Kelly, of so many people's dreams. And as I was reading many of the stories in Dreams and the Unexplainable, I wondered about your very own dream. Now, you had had success in your own right with best-selling books, but then you come into community with Amy Newmark and Chicken Soup for the Soul. That had to have been a dream, maybe not that you were conscious of, but it had to be, you know, a dream that would bring you so much more. It would bring you almost like the lottery.
Yes, exactly. Well, the funny thing is that I didn't add this to the story in the book, but I'll let it tell you and your viewers and listeners. Years before, probably back in 2002, when my very first book came out, I was at church and I met Mark Victor Hansen, who was one of the original co-authors of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series with then Jack Canfield. And I talked to Mark Victor Hansen. I said, hey, you should do a book called Chicken Soup for the Dreamer's Soul. And he said, well, I don't think anyone would buy it because no one really knows what dreams are. They're too elusive. We really want to focus on things that are a little bit more accessible to people. So pats me on the head like, nice try, little one, and be on your way.
Uh-huh.
Oh no! I can
At that moment, did you feel so dejected and like, why did I even suggest this?
Oh yes, I felt like, but I can see it so clearly. It was. I mean, I didn't have my hopes up, but I thought, what a miracle that would be. If things could go along the order of my script, then that would be so wonderful. But then I let it go. Completely let it go and just followed the breadcrumbs for my own life's path, this is my 10th book, so I've done lots of other things. I wasn't waiting like a stalker or like Fatal Attraction, like I'll pursue you until I had to let it. And then when I least expected it, I got the phone call from Amy Newmark via this very bizarre set of coincidences years later. I mean, how many years later was that? That was over 10 years, 15 years later.
Wow.
And so I think sometimes we try to pursue something, and if it's not working, then we need to just follow and go where the breadcrumbs are leading us. And then if it's meant to be ours, then we'll get the tap on the shoulder, and it'll be in a moment when we least expect it. But I talk about the next step. Once I'm working with Amy, we have our first book, Dreams and Premonitions, out, and then I have this dream about first a scary alien, and then she turns into this, I can't even describe how beautiful this alien is. And I'm not somebody who's into aliens. I'm not somebody who watches sci-fi, and it's not my vibe. So for me to dream about aliens is very odd. But I just know that this alien went from terrifying to beloved, like it elevated my whole spirit just in looking at her. And I woke up from that dream feeling so peaceful and so loved. And the interesting thing is that I realized that, here's the piece. I shared that dream with Amy.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
I got to get a quick break here, but when we come back, I want to talk about the moment that you had the courage to share that dream with Amy. As odd as the dream was, but you had the courage to share it. We're going to get a break, but when we come back, we'll talk about it. Stay on point. Back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. If your spirit needs to be warmed metaphorically and maybe literally, Chicken Soup for the Soul does just that. Our guest this morning is Kelly Sullivan Walden. She has written, along with Amy Newmark, Dreams and the Unexplainable. It's 101 eye-opening stories about premonitions and miracles. And before we went to break, you were talking about this dream that you had, and it was such an odd dream, but you were sort of apprehensive about sharing your dream with Amy But you took the chance and you did.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just get the nudge, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, where it's like, say this, and
Yeah.
you're like, no, no, that'll seem weird. They won't like me. But I kept getting the nudge to share this alien dream with Amy, and in the whole course of the year or so that we put together the Dreams and Premonitions book, I had never shared not even one dream with her, and I dream every day. I write them all down. So I've had thousands of dreams at this point. So why am I sharing this dream with her? I share it with her about the alien and how beautiful she is, and she's blue, and it's like, oh, and it uplifts my spirits. And then I hear radio silence on her side of the phone. I'm like,
she's like, this gal, you're thinking she's like, she's crazy. She's certifiable.
She's certifiable. How am I going to get out of this contract? I'm with one of those California fruit and nuts that she's kooky and I can't deal with her. I'm canceling our contract. But in the silence, what was happening is she was texting me something. I get a ding on my phone and I look and there's a photograph from her with the word alien on a license plate. And I'm like, why are you sending me this? She said, this is on my license plate. And she shows me the color blue of her car was just like the color blue of this alien. It was just this sky, twinkly, magical blue. And I was like, why do you have alien on your license plate? You live on the East Coast. You wear button-up shirts, collars up to here. Why? And then she goes on to say, and the story is told elaborately and beautiful in her book, Simply Happy. But the nutshell of it is, she was sitting at the breakfast table with her kids one morning, and her son said, "Mom, what are we?" Meaning, like, what's our religion? What's our nationality? And she says, because she's a prankster sometimes, and she said, well, it's about time you know. Your father's Catholic and I am an alien. So you're part alien. And her kid's like, what? That's so cool. And then she says, well, my initials, A. Lynn Newmark, ALN, it's a marker. And then she says, and my father, Alan, Newmark. So you can tell there's a code that we're all aliens based on our names, and their kids are flipping out. And then it spread. I mean, they knew at some point that she was joking, I think. But it spread throughout the school. Everyone knew that they have alien parents. And then they went and got the license plate. So it made me think, okay, why? This is a synchronicity. This is like a bizarre confluence of events that don't belong together, but they come together. And I always have to think it's in the spirit of what we end up calling unexplainable. But we were going to call this synchronicities, but we thought that was a little too complicated. But it basically makes you think and realize that you're in the right place at the right time with the right people doing the right thing. And there's a friendly universe bringing people together. And then even the symbolism of an alien, I like to say that what's most alien to most of us is our own power, is our own greatness, and is how blessed we are. So if we can embrace that part of us that is strange and beautiful, then I think we'll all be better off for it.
And I know people are like thinking that's way too much, but when I read that story in the introduction, you know what I immediately thought? That was just confirmation. That was God confirming this synchronicity that you guys share and this coming together that you had in a way that only God could do.
Well, and it gave me an added benefit because as much as I had been in the publishing business before, I was always intimidated by publishers because they are the gatekeepers. They can make or break you. And so always feeling nervous around them. So in my dream, feeling nervous around this scary alien who turns into somebody so loving and so beautiful and somebody so dear to me. So it's instead of how people used to say, well, if you're intimidated by people, see them in their underwear. Instead of doing that, I see them as a beautiful blue alien that is a dear friend I just maybe haven't met yet.
Amazing. There are so many incredible stories that people who will read Chicken Soup for the Soul will connect with. And one of the ones that I thought was really just very apropos because so many people are trying to wake up. And it's on 125, and it's called Waking Up. A dream which is not interpreted is like a letter which is not read. And under each caption, there's a little quote. And I just thought it was so amazing that so many of us are really not awakened by what we're here for, why we're here, and getting busy doing the work. Talk about that story.
Oh, it's such a great story. So Judy Dykstra Brown, she has a dream that she is in a bar and a woman is approaching her. And as she gets closer to her, the woman screams in her face and says, "Just wake up!" She throws her drink in her face and hits her on the head with the glass. Judy wakes up from this dream, hears a woman shouting, and it's her own voice saying, "Wake up!" And she's covered in water, she's drenched, and she's got a bump on her head because she had hit her own head with her water glass that had been on her nightstand. So she's completely disturbed by this. And so what am I supposed to wake up to? So she does something that I'm so happy that she did, and I suggest everybody do this. Journal immediately upon waking up with a dream and ask, what is this dream trying to wake me up to? Every dream is trying to wake us up to something. Hers was just very obvious. It's her. She's trying to get the dream's trying to get her attention. So as she's journaling, she realizes that she's a creative writing teacher. She has a master's in creative writing, and she'd been teaching, and she was a wonderful teacher and had been empowering and encouraging students and had read thousands of essays and gotten her students and had been the wind beneath her students' wings, but she herself in 10 years hadn't written a single thing. So that morning, after realizing I need to write myself, I need to take that leap of faith myself, she began to write and write and write what ended up becoming a novel that was loosely based on her. Cut to present tense, she moved out of this house that she had been building that was like her dream house, and she said, instead of living in my dream house, I'm going to live my dreams and take the courage to do that. She now lives in Mexico. She's got this fabulous life, and all she does is write. She makes her living as a writer. So our dreams do exactly what they do to Judy in the dream, where they show you, they try to get your attention, rattle your cage. That's the purpose of a nightmare, to let you know that you're off track, so that you can get on point.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that she realized, and there's so many people, Kelly, that are listening and watching this show that know that they're not living their dream because of fear, because of complacency, because of financial reasons, just a million and one reasons. Absolutely. And they never really, a lot of people will never awaken to what they're really supposed to be doing in this life.
You know, another one of the stories in the dream is similar to this one. It's a woman whose grandfather had passed away, and he comes to her in the dream because she's so despondent, and she says, "Grandpa, I know I'm not supposed to be doing teaching. I know I'm supposed to be doing something else, but I can't just make the leap." And her grandfather says, "Well, just do one little thing at a time. You don't have to completely throw a wrench in your whole life, but just take little baby steps. Do one little thing a day toward the life of your dreams." And she thought, oh, how come I didn't think of that? You don't have to throw everything away. You can if you want to, but you might want to just take baby steps toward living the life that you know that you're here to live.
Kelly, it's always a great pleasure to visit with you and to really just have some time to get into your psyche and to listen to you interpret dreams and listen to all of the amazing things that you have experienced through others and also experienced in your own dreams. It's always a great pleasure.
Thank you. I always feel on point, and I always feel like it's Christmas when I get to talk to you as well. You are so beautiful, and you've got such a lovely spirit, and I just wish you so much success with On Point becoming something that everybody is doing all the time, listening to, watching all around the world.
Indeed. We will receive that as you have spoken it. The book is called Dreams and the Unexplainable. Tell people how they can connect with Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh, they can get it wherever books are sold. It happens to be a hot new #1 release on Amazon.com, which is very exciting. Go to your local mom and pop bookstores. You can get it anywhere books are sold, even in Walmart and in Rite Aid and like all over the place. So wherever books are sold.
Absolutely. Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time.
It's such a pleasure. Merry Christmas every day of the year.
Indeed. Hey, everybody, stay on point. We're going to get a break. We're back right after this. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm Carlette Christmas, and this is the final point on point today. Glenda has the day off, and our guest this morning was Kelly Sullivan Walden from Chicken Soup for the Soul. And many of you are familiar with the Chicken Soup for the Soul brand. And Kelly has partnered with Amy Newmark, and they have written Awakening the World to the Power of Dreams. It's called Dreams and the Unexplainable. There are 101 stories, and for those of you who don't want to just sit and read an entire book, and sometimes it can be a little bit daunting because the books are so big, but in the bigness there are small short stories that really talk about people and their dreams and the significance of their dreams. And one of the things that I have been really reading and understanding now more than ever, and I'm not sure why, but everybody is really talking about connecting to your gut, or that still small voice, or your conscience, or something told me, and how important in every story that is recounted in Chicken Soup for the Soul's new release that every person mentions something about being guided by that voice. Now, for those of us who really understand that and live our lives by that still small voice that's always guiding, what we know for sure is that when you really listen, not just listen, but hear it, that voice never, ever leads you wrong. And in the stories, many people recount their dreams and how sometimes those dreams recurred and there was significance in those dreams. And so that's why it's really important to think about your dreams and think about maybe what those dreams are trying to say to you. Now, I know there will be many people that will say, I don't ever dream, or I dream and I don't remember my dreams. Well, Kelly is an expert on dreams, and she writes a lot about our dreams and the significance and what they mean. And before we went on air, I started telling her about a recurring dream that I often have, and she just started really sharing with me that in that dream, maybe I was relinquishing my power. And if you're a dreamer, it could be your sleep dreams, or it could be your dreams of doing the next thing in your life. And all of our dreams are really important. And the book really lets you know to hold on to your dreams. And if you haven't started dreaming, it's time. It's time to start thinking about those things that we could never make happen on our own. And sometimes I think that's why people really forget to dream, because it seems so big and so grand that you think, oh, I could never make that thing happen. But I believe that God in the universe gives us these dreams for a reason. And it's not so that we, in and of ourselves, can accomplish the dream. I think that the dream has to be so big. I know that mine are so big that at the end of the day, when we see the real and true fruition of that dream, we'll know that it was something bigger, grander, and greater than ourselves. And I'm going to tell you what I also think is really important about this dream book and about dreams. Sometimes as parents and grandparents and people who are raising young people, we forget to tell our kids to dream. Now, some kids just dream innately. It's just instinctive. They just dream. Like, I've met people on this journey, like Dr. Sharif, and she said, I wanted to be a doctor since I was 2 years old. And some people just have dreams like from very early on in their life. And then there are some people that when you ask them, what are you dreaming about? What did you dream about being or wanting to do? Or what did you dream that this life would mean and be for you? And then there are some people that say, I don't know. I never really had a dream. And so what I think is that we have to encourage young people and even older people that it's never too late to start dreaming. I believe that our dreams are given to us because they're connected with something bigger than us, if that makes sense. And if you hadn't, started to dream, just try it. And maybe it would seem silly to you, but that's why it's called your dream. It's for you. It's not for anyone else. And encourage children. I know with our son, we're really encouraging him to explore his dreams. For some people, it's easy, and for others, it's a little bit challenging. But we've got to plant that seed to start dreaming, start wanting something bigger. And I think that's where it starts. That's how you start to move toward the next thing in your life, by being able to sit and imagine yourself doing a thing or being in a certain position or a certain place. And so that's why Kelly's book is important, and all of the great stories. There's one great story that I really loved, and we didn't get a chance to share it, where one of the women was having a dream that she was in a position working where she didn't want to be. She was doing this because it was her mother's dream. It wasn't her dream. And she started having this recurring dream about winning the lottery, of all things. And she kind of just moved by it, and then the dream happened again. And this time the dream happened with lots of specifics. Long story short, she went and bought a lottery ticket, and when I started reading it, it said like she won $52,000 a year for the rest of her life. But this money was seed money into her starting to live her dream and move into that thing that she had always wanted to do. Now, I know that most of us will probably never win the lottery, and there's just a small percentage of that. But it's just how our dreams and our subconscious psyche have a way of taking us from where we are to where we're supposed to be, and getting on the road to doing that thing and those things that we were called to do. We're out of time for now. I'm Carlette Christmas, and this has been the final point on Point today. We'll be back right after this to wrap up.